oceans and seas of the Eastern Hemisphere. Remember, this is just the half of the world that we are focusing on for our history study this year. So if I look at the map, what is this body of water?
Indian Ocean.
Indian Ocean. I know you can still see it, but on the back side it's going to be blank. So starting tomorrow, you'll see the blank side. Okay. What about this body of water?
Arctic Ocean.
Arctic Ocean. Good.
Pacific Ocean.
Pacific Ocean.
Atlantic Ocean.
Good. Who can remember a fact about the Indian Ocean that we had to learn?
It's
Sophia.
the warmest ocean.
Good. The warmest ocean. All right. What can you remember about the Arctic Ocean, Abby? It is the coldest and most stays frozen most of the year. It's also the
Tiniest.
smallest. It's also the smallest. Okay, what about the Pacific Ocean? Jackson?
It's the largest ocean in the world.
Good. And how about the Atlantic Ocean? What do we need to remember about that one? That one's the one that's the most difficult to remember. Sophia?
It separates like Europe and like the other continents from the two Americas.
Excellent. Separates the Eastern Hemisphere from the Americas. Good job. Well, I should say more specifically these continents, Africa and Asia, Africa and Europe. So that is excellent. Okay, let's see. Let's take a look at the map of Asia. This is the Eastern Hemisphere. Here's just Asia. I'm going to focus on just that continent. And if I'm looking at just Asia, I still see the Indian Ocean. I still see the Pacific Ocean. I can't see it, but I know that what other ocean borders up here? Abby? At the top. It does start with an A. Arctic. Antarctica is the continent, that's the land. But the Arctic Ocean is the ocean that's at the top, okay? So we have the Arctic Ocean, Antarctica on the south. And you can barely see Australia here because they're trying to focus on the part of Asia in which our study begins. Why do we begin our history study with Asia? Sophia?
This is where the world began.
Yes, this is where the world began. Not that the whole earth wasn't created by then, it was. But this is where man was first put on earth. Here, if you look at this map, you're going to see the two major rivers that we talked about yesterday of Mesopotamia. We're going to look at this a little more closely in a moment. But what are the names of these two rivers that I need to remember as being where civilization began? Anybody remember the names of these two rivers? You probably can see it from back there. Tigris. Good. That's this one right here.
I don't remember the other one.
And the other one is a harder word to say. Do you remember what Tigris means?
Straight and then
Arrow. It means arrow because it's straight. Very good. What about this one? Anybody remember what this one was called?
I know it starts with an E.
It does. Abby?
I know what it is. I know what it is.
Jackson?
Euphrates.
Good. And what does Euphrates mean?
Euphrates means that which makes fruitful.
Excellent. Now, there was a little name, not a little name, but a name given to this area between these two rivers that was really fertile.
No, I
Do you remember what that area was called between those two rivers? And I'm going to get my next map so you can take a look at that. Sophia? Go ahead. Yes, Mesopotamia. All right, so here's Mesopotamia, because what I've done is I've taken that map and blown up just this section so I can see what it looks like. Now remember, this is showing us beginning of history, right here. So has that landform changed some since then?
Yeah.
Yes. There were some things that occurred that have caused this landform to change. So when I look at it on today's map, now this is showing different things, so it's hard to make this comparison. This area right here is no longer fertile. What does fertile mean? Jackson?
No.
No. Fertile. If you have fertile ground.
Soft.
No.
Smooth.
Emma? No. Abby?
Moist.
You're on the right track.
Wait, what'd you say?
She said increase.
Crescent.
It's the Fertile Crescent, but why is it fertile? What does fertile mean? Jackson?
Flat.
Not flat. Emma? No. All right, look back in your text. I think it might have been 10 and 11, but I'm not positive. It's where we were yesterday in our textbook.
Asia.
What does fertile mean?
Cradle.
Emma? No. Abby? You're right. The Fertile Crescent is where the earliest pages of history are about. Anybody remember what fertile meant, though?
Soil.
Has to do with the soil.
Fertile.
Wet.
No. Able to grow crops. Right? Why is it important to be able to grow crops?
So people can live.
Yes, that's how we eat. That's how we live. So if I look at this area today, how many of you have a family member who serves in the armed forces?
Well, I don't think he does
Wait,
anymore.
does it
He
count?
did.
Used to?
Okay, used to would work
Yeah.
also. Have you ever talked to them and did they ever serve in the Middle East?
I don't think
Did they ever have to go overseas and serve in the Middle East, do a tour of duty?
Think-
Maybe in Iraq,
Oh yeah.
maybe in Saudi
I
Arabia,
think so.
maybe in the Persian Gulf. Okay, that land over there is not fertile anymore. In fact, it's a desert. This whole area, actually all of this one too, all of this right here, desert. Look at this. All of this and all of this is now desert. We're going to learn in Bible. We'll talk about it in history as well. Why? It's no longer fertile. It's a desert. Even though it still has the Euphrates and Tigris rivers running right through it. Okay? But for right now, we're going to continue talking about the Fertile Crescent. Jackson.
My cousin's dad served in the army, but he retired
Okay.
because he always watched everybody. He was a pastor,
Uh-huh.
and he watched everybody fighting, and the enemy kept on shooting him in the leg and in the arm. One actually shot him right in the rib.
Oh my. Wow.
They just kept on trying to kill him,
Yeah.
so he retired.
Oh my goodness.
My dad used to be in the army, but I think when he married my mom, I think he left the army.
Okay. I encourage comments, but don't just talk out. Raise your hand. That's your warning, okay? Yes, Abby.
So actually, three people in my family was in the army. One of them died.
Oh,
No, he didn't die in the army, but
okay.
he had stuff wrong with his breathing.
Yeah, that happens a lot when they serve in the desert too, because it kind of messes with their lungs. Okay, today we're going to review page 327 and look at page 328. So we just did a review of a little bit of what we talked about yesterday, looking at the map. And now look at pages 327 and 328. 327, we're reviewing about the oceans and seas. We've already discussed the facts regarding the oceans that we had to remember from page 327. You should have highlighted it a couple days ago. But now let's review what is the definition of a sea. You don't have it highlighted because you won't see it on a quiz or test. But let's just review. What is a sea? Sophia?
A sea is a large area of salt water that is smaller than the ocean and is partly or completely enclosed by land.
Okay, so let's take a look at the seas that I see on this particular map of the old world, the ancient world. And what seas do you recognize on this map?
The Mediterranean Sea.
Okay, Mediterranean Sea. This is still today one of the most important bodies of water besides an ocean in the entire world.
I know.
All right, what is this one here?
Red Sea.
Anybody know anything about the Red Sea?
It looks like a rabbit.
It was in the Bible, but I can't remember.
It's in the Bible. Anybody know why?
Why is it important?
It is. This is the one that we're going to learn. God parted, meaning he separated the waters so that the children of Israel could walk through there on dry land on the seabed to get away from the Egyptians when they were getting out of slavery. Isn't that incredible? You've been to the beach before, right?
Yeah.
Everybody in here? Anybody not been to the beach?
I've been.
Okay, so you've seen how those waves are at the ocean? Okay, that's what this is. And God parts it so they walk through, millions of people walked through there on dry land. It just blows the mind when you think about that miracle. That is incredible. Okay, another sea that is very important in today's world is the Persian Gulf. I know my son, my oldest son, was in the Air Force, and he did a tour of duty in the Persian Gulf. He was at the little island country of Qatar. It's spelled Qatar. And this is where a lot of our armed forces are stationed so that they can be ready in case there is a war that breaks out. In this area. Because America is basically still at war with Iraq and Iran. We're not in active war against them, but they hate us and they hate America. And they are constantly threatening. Okay, so we have some aircraft carriers and some submarines that are stationed in the Persian Gulf. And we have Army and Air Force personnel that are stationed on the banks of the Persian Gulf around here so that they can be ready to protect. We also have several battalions, I guess you'd call them, that are stationed in Iraq itself. So a lot of our armed forces over there. That is a very important piece of water for our country right now. Then the other one you can see is the Caspian Sea. And the Caspian Sea we mentioned yesterday is completely landlocked. It's like a lake. It's like a big, huge lake. But it's salt water. Okay? So it's a sea. All right, turn to page 328, the 7 continents. And here's where you'll need to do some highlighting. Rising out of the Earth's oceans are the continents, the 7 largest areas of land. They are, and you know these already, North America, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia, Antarctica. We've been practicing locating them. Asia is the largest continent and has the greatest population. Highlight that fact. It's the first sentence of the second paragraph. Page 328. Asia is the largest continent and has the greatest population. Because Asia is connected by land to Europe, the 2 continents together are often referred to as Eurasia. So look up here at what would be considered Eurasia If I look at this brown part right here, that's Eurasia. Okay? Because it's connected to Asia. They just call that like a combination of Europe and Asia. All right? Like some people will put, like if there's a couple, they put the two names together. Isn't that, have you heard of that? When there's a couple, they put the boy and girl's name together and make a single word out of it. So that's the same thing, Europe and Asia, Eurasia. All right, highlight that Eurasia, that term there, Eurasia. And you might need to go up before that and highlight the two continents together so that you remember that. You see where I am? Second paragraph. It's the bold word Eurasia, and in front of that, the two continents together, Eurasia, because that's really the only explanation they give for that. Yes. As far as the size and, yes, we will have to know those, not completely in order, but you have to know a few of them. All right, the next paragraph. Africa is the second largest continent. Highlight that fact. And has the second greatest population. Africa was once connected to Asia by a narrow strip of land called the Isthmus of Suez. An isthmus is a narrow strip of land that connects two larger bodies of land. So if I look again at my map, Africa is over here, was connected to Asia by a narrow strip of land right through here, called the Isthmus of Suez. Now, they've changed that to make a canal because they wanted to make a waterway. Look up here so you can see how this looks on the map. They wanted to make a waterway from the Mediterranean Sea that would connect to the Red Sea so they could get straight down to the Indian Ocean without having to take a ship around the Horn of Africa, or around the bottom of Africa. Okay? So in order for ships to be able to travel from here to here, men changed this little piece of land to a canal. And they made it big enough to where ships can get through there. Now it's called the Suez Canal. So you may have heard of that. A canal is a narrow man-made channel of water that joins other bodies of water. You need to know that definition. You won't need to know all of these definitions immediately. Some of them you'll have to know later. Emma. It's at the very bottom of the page. God bless you. A canal is a man-made channel, a narrow man-made channel of water that joins other bodies of water. It is used for navigation, or sometimes they'll build a canal for irrigation. North America and South America are next in size after Africa. They are separated from Europe, Asia, and Africa by the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. North and South America were once connected by the Isthmus of Panama, but the Panama Canal now separates them. So you may have heard of the Panama Canal. At the bottom of the world is the frozen continent of Antarctica. It is the only continent where no people live, except for some explorers and scientists who live there temporarily. Even though Europe is next to the smallest continent in size, it has been very important in world history. Australia is the smallest continent. Highlight that fact. Australia, the smallest continent. It's the only continent that is also a country. It is also the world's 6th largest country. Let's see, where am I? Okay, get out your map skill sheets. You haven't done any map skill sheets to date, but today we do our first one. I better leave that on so I can give instructions on that. Map skill sheets is a little brown activity book that goes with your geography. And we're going to do our first one today. Yep, that's it. Now, if you look on a map skill sheet, on the first one, page 1, I will always refer to them not by the page number, but by the bold at the top. What map skill sheet is this? 1A. I'm not going to call it page anything. So when you go to look up one in your book and you say, Miss Miranda, I can't find it, it's because you're probably looking at the page number instead of the map number. I'm always going to refer to it by the map number at the top. Now on this particular map, we're just getting some review practice in how to read a map. You've learned this before, but I want you to look at the back side. Most of the time, your map skill sheets will only be the front side, but sometimes they give you a back. Look on the back, and what do you see?
Earth.
6 different views of Earth, right?
Yep.
At the very top of this sheet, what map is this?
1B.
1B. If it does have a front and a back, it'll call it 1A or 1B. If it doesn't have a back, it'll just say the map number. If you notice on the next page, it says skill sheet 2. It doesn't have an A or a B because there's not a back. All right? Go back to map skill sheet 1B. You have 6 views of the Earth. If I want to find the answers to this set of questions, it tells me right on the page where in my book to look. Can anyone figure it out? Geog Facts 2. What do you think GEOG stands for? Geography. And if I look in the back of my book where I just was, I want to find Geography Facts 2 in my book, my history book.
Oh.
In the back of my history book, I will find the geography facts. So get your history book and turn to page 327. And looky there. I have views of the Earth right there. That's going to help me. That page is going to help me answer everything on map skill sheet 1B. So, for example, if I'm looking at my geography facts 2 on page 327, what is the circumference of the Earth? Emma? Mm-hmm. The distance around the fattest part of the Earth, and how many miles is it? 25,000 miles. So I'm going to look at D. You see the view of the Earth?
Yep.
Some of you are not with me. We're on number 2 at the top of page 2, map skill sheet 1B, right here. Number 2, circumference of the Earth. Which globe shows me what the circumference is? D. D is the globe that shows me what I want. So I'm going to put D in the blank for number 2. Any questions about that? Okay, come back to the front. Come back to map skill sheet 1A. This one does not come from my history book. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. Most of the time they will. This one is reminding me of how to read a map. In the blue, I have some things I need to remind myself about. Small pictures or symbols are in the map key. Does everybody see the map key on your book? Here's your map key. Okay? And then a compass rose helps you tell directions. Everybody point to the compass rose. Let me see if you can get it in the right spot. Put your finger on the compass rose. That. Put your finger on the compass rose. Yes. Okay. Compass rose is this thing right here.
Yeah.
And that's going to tell me north, south, east, west, and then northeast would be halfway between north and east. Southeast would be halfway between east and south. Southwest is halfway between south and west. And northwest is halfway between west and north. So it's similar to a clock in that it's divided into fourths, and then I can go in between the fourths to get more specific. So if I'm looking at the name Riverside, eyes up here, if I'm looking at the name Riverside, and I want to say what direction the baseball field is, from Riverside, I would go southeast to the baseball field. Do you understand how I got that? Because I went down and to the right. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So on Roman numeral 1, it says, can you determine what each of the following intermediate directions are? Well, we just named them. So what does NE stand for?
Northwest.
Northeast. And I don't capitalize it. I do not capitalize it. It's one word. So I'm going to write one word. Northeast. No space, no capitals. Does everybody understand that? Okay. Now, skip down. You'll fill in the others on your own. Stay with me. Skip down to Roman numeral 2. And it says, answer the questions using this map. So how many stores in Riverside are southeast of the church? All right, so first what do I have to find? No? The church. Since I'm starting at the church, because I'm looking at the ones that are southeast of the church. So first I want to find the church. Put your finger on the church. I'll put my mask on for this so I get a little closer. I don't know if I can see you. Church. Put your finger on the church. Yes. 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 Good. Yes. Good. So if I'm looking southeast, do I want anything above the church?
Nope.
No. Do I want anything equal to the church? No. I want southeast. So this is my church. I want anything that is over here from the church. Look in your key to see what the stores look like. Do you see what the stores look like in the key?
Yes.
Now, go back to the church and count how many you see that are southeast of the church. Raise your hand when you think you know the number. BJ.
4,
No?
8,
Spear.
6,
No?
8.
8. All right, now let's take a look at how he got that. Eyes up here. You with me? students miss this. Eyes up here. Here's my church. I want anything southeast. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How come I'm not gonna count this guy? Sophia?
Because he's on the west.
He's south, but he's not southeast. Do you hear the difference? He is south, but he's not southeast. And this one is southwest. So I've got to be careful that I exactly follow the directions. So I've given you 2 of the answers on this page and 1 on the back. Oops. When you're finished, carefully tear it out and put it in the classwork drawer. When you're finished with that, you're going to go ahead and start writing your helping verbs. Okay, so don't get anything else out after you're finished with history. Put the history away, turn in the page, and then immediately get out a clean sheet of paper, nothing else on your desk, and write your helping verbs. And there are how many helping verbs? 23. Emma. On the back, D. On the back, is that what you mean? Oh, we didn't do number 2. We did this one and this one. That would have been Northeast. No spaces, no capitals, no capitals. It's going to show you up here. Oh, that's it. We just talked about it. No, northeast. See, the E stands for east. So E is, so the N stands for north, the E stands for east. Yeah. All the rest of them are gonna follow that same pattern. Okay? No, you're gonna put what these stand for. That was northeast. Northeast, no capitals, no space.